Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to a fantastic and super important episode in which we're gonna do the following. I'm gonna rank all the stats in Topwar from the most important ones to the less important ones, which will result in a priority list for the game. Then we're gonna take each of these stats from these ranks and I'm gonna explain you what's the best way or the cheapest way to approach this, and this topic number 2 will automatically lead us into the priority list for your account, because you will understand why your priority list will gonna be slightly different than the stats priority list for the entire game. So yeah, I highly recommend you guys to watch this till the end. And this episode is brought to you by Mr. Werewolf from server 1035, which done a fantastic work. And we're gonna put that on the screen and we're gonna use his wonderful work. And the second person I would like to thank is Mr. Alan ASP, which is a wonderful player. And not just that, he is also a fantastic mod, because as you guys know, we also have a couple of useless mods still in Topwar. And with that out of the way, let me put this fantastic work from Mr. Werewolf on the screen. And let's start with this tier list of most important stats for the game itself. So what I highly recommend you right now is to pause the video, since this is 1080p resolution, and take a screenshot for later on. But you can also take some more screenshots from the video whenever you find something super interesting. And first of all, we have to start by saying we have kind of two types of stats. One which are additive, so they add up, and the other ones are multiplicative. So this is very important to understand. That's why the tier list of most important stats in Topwar will always going to be slightly different than your priority list for the stats. The second thing which I must add in here is when you look at the stats in general, you see everywhere here percentage, everything is in percentage. So you see some crazy values, 4,000, 300, 100, whatever, but everything is in percentage. And why is this the case? The answer is a very simple one, because every single unit in game has different set in stone values of attack and health. In other words, the higher the level of a unit is, the higher these base set in stone stats are. Or in other words, the higher the level of the units which you are using in battle, the higher the performance of your account will be, because that's exactly where these stats apply on the set in stone values of the units level which you are using. So let's go back now to the work of Mr. Werewolf to explain a couple of more things. So we see, for example, here the attack multipliers. And theoretically speaking, we can indeed find an average value between different stats. In this case, you see a +1 march size is equivalent to approximately 13.5 attack or approximately 9% HP. You also see that 1% damage increase is equal to roughly 9% attack. You also see these worst stats, and here you have to pay attention. These are worst stats for the heroes themselves. So 1000 worst stats, it's kind of equal to 2.6% attack. And of course, the crit damage is also an attack multiplier, and 1% crit damage is roughly around 2% attack. And we also have the health multipliers. And here you see 1% DEF is roughly around 17% health. And when you also see that 1% damage decrease is roughly about 6%, then that's exactly one of the questions people keep having. What's the relationship between DEF and the damage decrease? And from this calculation here, somewhere around 1% DEF will be 3% damage decrease. And of course, we also have the invulnerable stats. We have to mention it. And it's 1% invulnerable, it's equal to approximately 3% HP. So based on this calculations, here is the overall priority list for the game itself. Don't confuse this with your account. We're gonna get to that in a second. The march size, then the DEF, then the damage increase, then the damage decrease, then the worst stats, then the invulnerability, then the crit damage, and then all the way at the end we have the attack and HP. Now, before I'm gonna explain you each of these stats, where you get it the cheapest way possible, let me mention something very important. There is a huge difference between the overall priority list for the game and the priority list for your account. What am I trying to tell you? I'm gonna exclude from this list the worst stats, the invulnerability, and the critical damage. And watch the episode till the end so you're gonna understand far better why I'm doing this. But now, beautiful people, we'll come to the stats priority list from your perspective as a player and from my perspective as a long Topwar player for more than 3 years now. And what I'm gonna show you here is not just only the list, we're gonna go through all of these stats, and also I'm gonna show you where to get this as most efficient as possible, or in other words, the cheapest way possible. And from this perspective, yes, we have to start with the march size. Technically speaking, is still the most important stat in a game. And for that, of course, we have to use the battle report in order to not miss out on any possibilities from which you can obtain these stats. And here is the march size. And let's have a look where you can get it. So first, and the most important thing, you definitely should focus on your hero skills. Every now and then, you definitely have to go in there and recycle your stuff in order to get the skills which you needed. By the way, I'm also going to put now on the screen a video when it comes down what skills do you need for PvE and what skills do you need for PvE, just in case you missed it. And also on top, I would like to add another video on the screen in which I specifically address only the march size, and that's why I wanted to use the word technically speaking. The march size is the most important thing in Topwar. So where can you get it? Most important thing is always recycle your skills every now and then. You can also get it from the research and from the class talent, and also kind of at this point we are jumping into this other category, which means, yeah, you really have to spend some money in order to go further than this. And the first one is the decoration, which is kind of half and half, because some collaboration events do indeed offer you a decoration with march size, and you should definitely focus on that. But up this moment, yeah, what you see here are the VIP privileges. You see also the masteries, and I would like to include the masteries in this kind of pay to win chapter, because in order to get this +6 in total from the masteries, you really have to reach 3 times level 17, which is not that easy to reach without you actively spending money. Of course, I forgot to mention the hero bond, which can be technically obtained for free. And what else do we have? We have the base effects, which technically speaking, you don't have the opportunity to get any of these base effects without you spending money, and the cost is an average of $50. We also have the base skins passive stats from which you can get march size, and on top of this, also if you are a regular viewer of this channel, you saw me showing you a trick by using, for example, the romantic skin. Send your march towards your target and then immediately change to a different skin. That's also a way to do it. And that's pretty much it when it comes down to the march size. The second most important stat, not just for the game, but also for you personally, is going to be the DEF. And here you find it as DEF for Army, Navy, and Air Force, but also on top DEF of all units. So let's start with the easy one, which is the DEF, for example, of the Army. I would like to stick with the Army for this episode. And here you see where can you get it. And that's from the Alliance Monster by your members actively donating those stuff. You also technically have a chance to obtain a little bit of DEF from the Titan gear if you are lucky enough. And what we see here, a huge chunk will come from the Heavy Trooper, but here we have to mention that the Heavy Trooper is not to be considered permanent stats, because every now and then in the battle your Heavy Trooper will be in healing, therefore all the stats from his chips will not be active. And now let's have a look at the DEF of all units, because this is a bit more interesting. It comes also from the formation and also from decorations. And here we have to mention that the decorations themselves are pretty much on the same price with the march size. And when I speak about the price, I mean you buying it for real money or you buying it with the vouchers which you were able to obtain for free in that event. And we also see, yes, from some base effects you can also obtain DEF. So the third most important stat in Topwar is actually, you guessed it, the damage increase. And I specifically mentioned we want to stick with the army in this case. And if we click on this, the list becomes slightly bigger. And what should be your priority on a damage increase? As always, recycle your skills every now and then is super important. The damage increase also comes from the components, also comes from the class talent, also comes from the alliance badge, also comes from the hero bond, and from the loot quest with these new items added in this museum of the loot quest. And up this moment, again, we are entering this territory in which you actually have to spend some money. And yeah, we mentioned here the morale gives you also damage increase. Base effects, again, are things which most of the time actually cost money. We see the heavy trooper, which you can technically be lucky and obtain a wonderful chip, but again, this buff won't be permanent because your heavy trooper may be in healing. The mastery is such a thing, yeah, the higher the level it is, the more stats you're gonna get. So I won't consider the mastery to be a simple pay-to-win possibility from which you can increase your damage increase. And the same goes for the Titan gear, because with a little bit of luck, you can indeed get some damage increase from there also. And what else is to be mentioned, some of the base skins have as passive stats. The fourth most important stat in Topwar, yes, you guessed it, is the damage decrease. And this is similar to the damage increase. Again, recycle your skills, get your components up. You have the class talents, you have the alliance badge, you have also the hero bond in here, and pretty much you see the whole list being similar to the damage increase. But on top you also see hero pre-battle skills, and here we have to add Villers, which can give you up to 1 hour of damage decrease with her special exclusive skill, which you, by the way, have to activate. And you heard me at the beginning of the video saying, you know what, I'm gonna exclude the worst stats, and I'm also gonna exclude the invulnerability and the critical damage. And this is exactly the moment in which I'm gonna explain you why. Now, if you wanna see how much worse stats do you actually have, you click on your profile, you go to the stats, and you don't even have to scroll anywhere from here. You already see it. All hero war increase, 6,820 I have right now, and you also see the DEF. You have to pay attention. These two stats here are exclusively only for the heroes, and the main way to obtain these are from the decorations, and that's the main reason why I would like to exclude this stat from your priority list. Because if you have the alternative between a March size or DEF or hero war stat, you definitely should take either the March or the DEF. The second stat which I would definitely want to exclude from here is the invulnerability, because that can be from the components or from some hero skills. And guess what? You don't have any slots in order to equip that. So from this perspective, yes, the invulnerability is also a multiplicative stat, but on the other hand, you don't have any room for that. And the third stat, which I also want to exclude from here, is the critical damage. Now, please don't confuse this with the critical rate. And if we click on this, the only thing what you should worry about when it comes down to the critical damage is get your class talent and get your hero bond, because pretty much everything else is either a base effect, which costs you a $50 a piece, or the decorations. The other stats are far more important if you are giving an alternative to that. The fifth and the sixth most important stat in Topwar are, of course, the attack and HP, because these stats are additive. In other words, the higher you are getting, the lesser performance actually you are obtaining per percentage. And we can combine these two stats in one, because if we click on one of them, you see the list is absolutely extremely big, and it's worth to have a look at this. You have it from hero skills, from the science, from the components, from the alliance text, from decoration. It's also obtainable. Also make sure you check your hero bond. Also from masteries, once you level up, your mastery is up. Also from the special effects upgrade, for example, from the morale with these power cubes, but this is a pretty expensive thing. It also comes from something super important, which is the unit specific equipment, super important to mention. Also from the heavy trooper, but we talked about this. This is not a permanent buff. Also from the formation, from the alliance monster, from the Titan gear, and of course a huge chunk for attack and HP comes from the holding a stock of the skins. And this was something which some of us players used to do this in the past. Buy every single base skin out there, regardless how useless it was, because we were trying to increase the HP and attack and other stats from the holding in stock of those skins. Anyways, the list is pretty long, and we also see here added the loot quest, because these relics added into the museum of the loot quest. So beautiful people, yes, this is the list, what you see now on the screen, of the most important stats for you as a player. Now, the most important part of the video is how exactly should you approach this. And I think a general rule is the cheaper the possibility is for you to obtain something is definitely the way to do it. And while we have the Titan gear being something which absolutely dominates Topwar, which is a massive mistake, let me take another example, which are the decorations. Now, the way to approach this, in every collaboration events, I always doing video and recommending you what stuff to get. If you get the opportunity actually to get one of these decorations unlocked, or in other words at level 1, it's absolutely great, but this is exactly the point where you really have to pay attention where to use your universal decoration shards, and keep this priority list in mind when it comes down to upgrading your decorations. So anyways, beautiful people, this is pretty much everything you need to know regarding the stats in Topwar. I hope this video was very entertaining, but also at the same time a super important video, which I hope it helps a lot of players out there. And by the way, if you are having questions, don't be so shy. Put them in the comments, but please bear with me, because no matter where I am, either on Discord or in game or on YouTube, I'm literally overrun by an insane amount of questions coming from a lot of players every single day. Or in other words, what I'm trying to tell you, if you're one of the players out there which stumble upon some questions on YouTube, please be so kind and jump in and answer that question for that specific player, in order for him or her to get the help needed as soon as possible. So beautiful people, as always, yeah, don't forget to support what supports you back, which is this channel and me personally. Since November 2022, in other words, please make sure you are subscribed, share this channel with your friends, and don't forget to see me in the next episode. Ciao, guys.